They say that you have to draw them in with a really good opener. This one is prying my eyes open, Clockwork Orange style of attention. For the longest time, I feel like I neglected a part of myself that I mostly connect with now. As I'm sure most people can relate, I wasn't being completely honest with myself about the person that I was, or the person I wanted to be. Now granted, for the most part, I was being authentic, but there was still that very crucial piece missing. Specifically through music, rock and metal were my go-to genres, while still mixing in touches of just about anything I found catchy enough. But it wasn't until roughly the last 3 to 4 years that I finally reconnected with that person that I was in my early to mid-teens. That's the part of me that had a strong fondness for things such as industrial, goth, punk, and things of that alternative nature. Not that I entirely neglected those things, as I had love for bands such as 9 Inch Nails, Mushroomhead, and others within the industrial rock and metal realm, but I purposely pushed those styles aside, figuring that it would garner more positive attention if I focused on other things. I wasn't all that popular growing up, but that's an armchair story for another day. And finally, at the modern point of me making this video, I'm finally connecting with things that I have missed out on, some far more distant than others. I liked Skinny Puppy in high school, but didn't really bother deep diving into them until 2023, and that's just as an example. And punk as a whole finally clicks more with me now than it ever has before. In the realm of both of those examples comes post-punk, a gloomy but albeit experimental and dancey genre, to put it very basically. And I started to really dig the classics of that genre. Susie and the Banshees, The Cure, Joy Division, and my personal favorite band of the period, Bauhaus. There's a lot that feels so fun about that genre without being far too explosive. It's something easy to take in on a surface level while still feeling far different from most conventional structures. There have been some revivalist movements of it in the past couple of decades, with bands such as Arctic Monkeys, Silver Sun Pickups, and TV on the Radio helping to feed that category. One band caught my attention within that all, and that is Bristol's own Idols. Though the band can be classified as many different things, their more post-punk adjacent sound can be found in songs such as Brutalism's 1049 Gotho, or Crawler's When the Lights Come On. But then I get around to listening to their most acclaimed album to date, and that would be Joy as an Act of Resistance. A powerful album from front to back that had the sound and energy I had been looking for. And though the album has fantastic appeal with ground-rattling tracks like Never Fight a Man with a Perm, or the wonderfully messaged and executed Samaritans, it was the opening track that had a little bit of everything for me. Tension, building, noise, excitement, and then an amazingly fun climax. And that, of course, is the song Colossus. Colossus is the first of 12 songs on Joy as an Act of Resistance. The album was released August 31st, 2018 through Partisan Records. Each member contributed to the track, as it is with all their other releases. John Beavis, Adam Devonshire, Lee Kiernan, Mark Bowen, and Joe Talbot. The track and album were produced by Paul Fraser, aka Space, who has also done work with The Prodigy, Never Not Nothing, Jamie Lenman, and more. Aside from the lyrics of just this song, a lot of it is based around frontman Joe Talbot learning how to open up and allow himself to be more vulnerable. That meant tackling many things that would actually find themselves as prominent themes on this entire album. In an interview with KEXP, Talbot had said, "One of the main points of my therapy was that I wasn't being vulnerable enough and opening up enough. So there's a process I was going through already, and the changes that I made in my life due to vulnerability and opening myself up was life-changing, life-saving." The main themes of this album involve things like love, self-love, European life and politics, immigration, toxic masculinity, just to name some. Among those themes, this song tends to go off in a couple different directions. The first part, and the majority of the song, revolves around feelings of guilt and how it was causing a spiral. There are references to inadequacies, self-harm, and the feeling like it's never ending, like this was how it was meant to be. Then, in a triumphant and energetic second part to the song, the narrative switches to a more positive outlook of not living up to negative expectations and being the person you want to be at all costs. In the case of this particular song, if the world expects you to be this big masculine role model, just try to find traits in it that you actually want to portray rather than what they want you to portray. In the end, it's about changing the negative things you feel about yourself, partially brought on by others' expectations, and learning to be you. Be you, be loud, be proud, be love. I said love is the fate. Worth noting too are some of the people that Talbot mentions in the last leg of the track. Stone Cold Steve Austin, the tough guy. Fred Astaire, the entertainer. Ted DiBiase, the cheat, the liar. Evel Knievel, the badass. Jesus, the leader. But then Reggie Cray. Like most people, I also had to Google who this was because I'd never heard that name before. In short, Reginald Cray was one of the Cray twins who were members of a crime organization called The Firm. Maybe where the supergroup got their name from? It was found out later in life through self-admission and a book written about the two, a book by John Pearson called The Profession of Violence. Both men were gay, or at least bisexual. As Joe has publicly stated about his past before regarding his sexuality and his life of crime and violence, he could be making that comparison to himself in a very tongue-in-cheek kind of way. Though I doubt Joe had much to do with the side of the Cray twins' alleged incestuous allegations, but that's not the point here. Now that's just my interpretation about what's being said in this song, but it should be noted that in the deluxe version of the vinyl, the one that I own, on the insert there's actually, with every song coming written on the insert, instead of lyrics, you do get notes about the song, and for Colossus specifically, it does say, "On contemplation of what it is to be a man, I found nothing. But when I thought of what it was to be a good person and a good father, I found my dad. Now, I know there's no need to follow his footsteps but be my truest self. Not a man, but a good friend. I owe him so much. But really, because of the beautiful person he is, I owe him nothing at all but love." The building this song does is a masterwork of tension. Everything starts out with that feeling of unease with this warm but distorted and kind of unwelcoming bass chord repeated for a long time, matched with a ticking and hollow snare tap, both acting as a minimal but almost foreboding setting to this song. The pickup of pacing and percussive intensity, mixed with this quiet but anxiety-inducing guitar picking, already has the atmosphere pouring in like molasses. We march on and it continues to get heavier, louder, and noisier. The building is absolutely insane, and this is all while Talbot goes from a soft melodic style of singing to an emotional and unhinged fever pitch of yelling his way through the final portion of the verses. As the song reaches its most nerve-wracking loudest point of sonically enveloping atmosphere, it's brought to a halt for a few bass drums, and then silence. Although there is a little bit of ambience kind of sprinkled in a little bit, just nothing. That is until a fast, loud, and intense punk energy tears the fog down and really gets things moving. The tension is gone and replaces it with a far more fun relief. Super hard guitars, chanting vocals, and defiant lyrics suddenly make this into an entirely different track, if only for a little while. And then that's it. The song just ends abruptly, suddenly bringing you back into reality. It almost makes you feel kind of drunk. You know, the party went hard, and then suddenly you're forced to sober up in a very fast and disorienting way. Though don't get me wrong, I really do like how this was all done, though I wish it did go on longer. So the fact that this intense and exciting song has me begging for more should speak some pretty loud volumes. At the point of me making this video, Idles has been in the public eye for roughly 8 years now. Not a relatively long time, but long enough to have an outstanding impact. Maybe I would have discovered them even if I didn't take that deeper dive into the alternative pipeline. My first real exposure to them was through the music review channel The Needle Drop, as most of you are already likely aware of who and what that is. But who knows how deep I would have went to find this band if I didn't expand my musical horizons and reconnect with that music that I loved so long ago. Since becoming a fan, Idles has been a very powerful addition to my collection, each album bringing something new, exciting, strange, and beautiful in only the way that they know how to do. They have a catalog full of music that has struck chords with me on many emotional levels, the highs and the lows, but Colossus is a little bit of everything that I've ever needed. So many emotions, so many sonic layers, and two different styles coming together to bring an instantly classic and unforgettable album opener, especially in my eyes. And that's why I love this song.